invited people to come natural dye with indigo, reach through the net, and then hang all of these indigo flags along that line. So for us, it was like a wish for what if the border wall didn't exist and it was just made of blue, made of sky. And then we had this other project that we made together in 2015. We traveled along the border from El Paso all the way to Boca Chica Beach and stopped to make this net that you see there in different parts of the river. We were able to get in the water. And ultimately, we natural dyed the crepe paper with avocado pits and black beans, things that are a part of the Mexican-American diet. And we installed those crepe paper lines in the shape of the borderline of Texas and Mexico. And so we invited people to push the curtain, and it was really about movement and celebrating immigration and that movement. And then once I graduated grad school, Annalise and I were like looking to do residencies. Everybody wants to do a residency after grad school. You're just applying to everything. We kept getting rejected. I was like, what's happening? But we got an email getting a rejection from the Guadalupe Mountains National Park, and we replied, thank you so much for your time. I hope we get to work with you in the future. And they emailed us immediately back. And they said, well, actually, we have housing for you, and we loved your project. So you can't call it a residency. It'll be more like a volunteership, but do you still want to do it? And we're like, hell yeah, we want to do it. So we rented a truck. We made this gigantic loom for our land loom project, and we invited people to weave the landscape that they saw. So it was like a shelter that sheltered you from the sun in the desert, but it was also another way to experience the park that was outside of hiking. And so this project cost us a lot of money to pursue, and felt like a big risk, but what was really great was the final objects. And then we got invited back 4 times over to do this project in 4 different locations. So on the left side, we went to Eastfield College in Dallas to weave that one with the community and students. And then on the right side, we got to go to the Oak Cliff Cultural Center, and then to Say C, which was in San Antonio, to weave with teens. And so it was just such an amazing project that kept moving forward. But really, after these projects, I joined the arts admin as a career, and didn't make work for a couple of years. And the big turning point for my art career was doing a local residency in Fort Worth called Arts Fort Worth. It was a whole year long with a solo show at the end, and so lots of time to focus. It also coincided with, I wanted to make sure to let y'all know about the American Craft Council. They give funding for emerging artists, so they gave everybody a beautiful stipend for the year of $10,000. And so with these 2 things combined, I was just like, okay, we gotta go all in. We gotta quit jobs. We need to focus on the work and give it the attention it deserves. It came with coaching with Mountain BizWorks, which is out of Asheville. And they actually give a lot of business coaching as well as scholarships if you're looking to learn more about business in the arts. So check out their website. In my residency, I really wanted to focus on basketry. So with basketry, I'm usually only using rattan, and then you only need needle nose pliers, measuring tools, and then I like to work with cement and mortar. So I love this setup. It's streamlined. You don't have any big equipment. You can move around a lot, and I'm not reliant on like a large loom or something like that. So it's very easy. And the barrier for entry is very low. The cost for all this material is probably like $40. So I love that about basket weaving. During my residency time, I drew a lot. So I was painting a lot. I was using these forms as ways to map out final pieces and decipher their dimension. And so you could see those direct links between those two drawings there and the pieces that are sculptural in front of you. 1 year is a long time. Not every single thing is a serious piece. I wanted to show you some games I would play with myself for entertainment. So on the left was a basket that I challenged myself, what's the fastest you can make a basket? So I just used flat reed and staples to join those together. It is funny. And then on the right side, I had a show coming up, and I was enamored by this cement thing that I had cast on the left, but I knew I didn't want to mail that because it was like 10 pounds. So I used it as a mold to weave around. So we have the top of that form on that side and then the lid to form the back. And that ultimately turned into this piece here. So just making room and time for play was really important during that residency. Some in-progress pieces. I work really hard to transform the reed. So here it's that natural color, that blonde color, and then I paint, I add cement, I add mortar to transform and replicate the textures I was talking to you about that I saw crossing checkpoints. This piece on the right, I worked so hard on it and didn't know where it was going. I knew it felt weird, and I needed to take it on a walk. So I took it outside and I hung it on a stairwell rail. I put it on top of a rock. I hung it on a chain. And it just, like, the life of seeing it outside of the studio made me less frustrated with it, and now I felt more engaged and excited to take it into a direction. So take your art on a walk and see what kind of images you create or think about. It ultimately became this work, and a lot of the pieces that I work with brooms and brushes are these desires for what if you could sweep the borderline away if it was just like a line in the sand. So this is just a big time brush to help with that wish. And for the solo show, at the end of the Arts Fort Worth residency, I presented it with a variety of pieces that explored lots of different textures, using twining and basketry, but using like the flags that are often utilized to kind of tell people to be cautious or alert. The brushes I've turned into these links to create this kind of porous structure. And then the piece on the top, thinking about the sky as the place, the shared space along the border that has no boundary. So it was really fun to play with scale, be able to have that year to explore variety and shape, and really bring the work into fruition. This was the first piece of large loops. So what I loved about working in this way was I had 3 weeks left in the residency, and I knew I didn't go big enough for my heart to feel satisfied with that time. And so in the last 3 weeks, everything had to stop in my life, and I worked on this piece. It's made up of 7 different parts that all kind of fit together like pipe. And again, it's very much referencing movement. I'm thinking a lot about when you live on the border, you're crossing back and forth as a daily life. You have to work on either side. You have to live. So thinking about like that trans-border experience is very non-linear, and the weight of that experience. So it felt very significant to have the form balancing on the line and showing that weight in the work. So I'm often thinking about home and feeling nostalgic all the time, and sometimes it can feel like a burden because I'm not feeling present. So I started this series of baskets and called Presents. This piece, I found a rock right outside of the residency, and I wove around it for about 5 to 6 hours for that day. And I got to meet the mailman walking by, the kids going into theater class, people going to work, people going to see the art at the art center. And it made me feel like, okay, I'm here, even though I'm thinking about home all of the time. So I keep working on these in different locations, and they're very significant to the whole series that I'm considering. And also during that time, I was working on these forms, these infinity forms. So thinking about what if an infinite amount of migration and movement was permitted? And that felt very significant. And it sent me on a loop of thought. So some more infinity signs here, but now the form is kind of pinched at the top, and it has a different energy, especially playing with the natural dye color. This again is the cochineal ink that adds a lot of liveliness and joy to the work. My love for infinity forms turned into my interest now into mathematical forms that had no boundaries. So this was my best go at creating a Klein bottle. So this form, if traveled upon, you ultimately end up right back at your origin because it has no border or boundary. And I just thought that was a beautiful poem for thinking about your love for your place that you're from. And then the Mobius strip. Love the Mobius strip, another borderless form in mathematics. And it was a challenge to try to translate these into 3D, which feels hilarious. But when you cut a Mobius strip into thirds, they turn into these links that cannot be unlinked. And again, just another beautiful poem for thinking about the border and how those two areas on either side are just always connected to each other. I went back to the Penland School of Crafts, everybody, and I loved it. And it was 2024. With all this work that I made in the solo show, it came with professional photography, and that goes a long way. So then I knew I was ready to apply for a 1-year residency at the Penland School of Craft. And I got it, and I knew I was going to get it. I felt that delusion of like, you got this is so yours, and you need that to keep working. And so for that year, I was able to have this beautiful studio, 600 square feet, and they also provide housing and meals. It's a perfect space if you're somebody who just needs a space to work for the year and doesn't have large equipment. So great for fiber artists or felters, anybody who's very able to move around easily. And during my time there, I was able to work on this piece here for El Museo, and then I had a solo show with the gallery that I work with in Dallas, Texas. And so it was wonderful to have another opportunity to build a world, but it was at a cost. So I was at the Penland School of Craft during the hurricane, and that was very challenging. It was very hard to make work after the hurricane. But what came out of it was this piece. It was one of the last works that I made. And I was inspired by the idea of carrying her bags, but then it transformed. All of a sudden, I found myself weaving these kind of mountain lines or mountain ridges on the baskets, definitely referencing Western North Carolina, where I live now. And then after the hurricane, there was so much blue everywhere that I would see. Blue tarps, blue dumpsters, blue water bottles. And so it felt important to capture that time and that color in a piece. And so I painted the work blue. It was very outside of my comfort. But I do feel like even though I love this place, I still feel like an outsider. And so the last layer of color is a cochineal ink wash on top. And for me, that's about thinking, I love this place and I'm experiencing all of this, but through the lens of somebody who's from a border town. And I love this work. I've been able to make a small series, a body of work exploring these forms and color. And so it really opened me up to exploring color further and also exploring what does it mean to live in Western North Carolina as a Mexican-American artist. And the last year, some fun things I wanted to share with y'all was I did get to show work in New York, as Erin mentioned. So I'm working with a gallery called Super House. And this was a 2-person show earlier this year, and paired up with Lewis Prosser. He's from Wales, makes these beautiful willow baskets, sculptural. A lot of them are costumes that are used in performances. And that was an amazing opportunity to share the work at a higher caliber. But also, what a great trip. Got to see so much good art while going to the opening. And then things that have been really important to me this year is not only nurturing like gallery relationships, but going back home, going back to South Texas and doing programming in South Texas. So I've been working with the River Pierce Foundation. Their slogan is Crossing Borders of Awareness to bring awareness to the border. So I got to share a basket workshop with participants right next to the beautiful Rio Grande River. So that's really important to me, is to not only cultivate my special relationships here, but also back at home. Speaking of special relationships, I'm absolutely obsessed with the John C. Campbell Folk School. Has anybody been? It's so close. Awesome. They have 1-week workshops, weekend workshops, and similarly they have work-study programs, and they really focus on traditional and Appalachian folk experiences, and for some reason they're so kind. They host me for sculptural basketry, and it's always a hit, and I love going there to contra dance and like just hang out with all of the artists taking classes. So check them out. They're only an hour from here, so take a field trip even if you're not in a class. And then the last thing I'm going to share with you is I'm finishing a residency at the Center for Craft in Asheville, North Carolina. They have something called the Virginia A Group Material Exploration Residency. So I've been able to explore small metals in the last 2 months. It's been frustrating and super fun. I cried last week finally for the first time because things weren't casting right. But my focus was all about creating net-like structures in metal and kind of thinking about how does the net structure start to change and shift when it's in the new material. But I love the idea of the metal net being this like shadow of a barrier, something that can move and shift with light and isn't so constant. And so that's the end of my presentation. I'm so happy I got to share all of this with you, and I just want to open it up to questions over here. Don't be shy, because then you'll make me shy. Over here.
How many artist residencies do you apply for at this point?
How many do I apply for,
Yeah,
and how many do I get?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm very selective because I think applying for things takes a lot of energy. So this year I've maybe applied to 5 things, and the the 2 residencies I applied to in this last year, I got them both because I knew that they were the perfect fit. So just really reading what the residency is offering and how is it the proper moment in your career for it to uplift you and like use that momentum to get you to the next step. For the Center for Craft, I knew for 5 years I've been wanting to work in small metals and that this was going to be a good opportunity because I've already worked for the Center for Craft in the past. And you don't always need a residency. You know, sometimes you're happy making work in your house and you have everything you need. But sometimes the residencies are just going to help you push forward by meeting people, networking, or providing studio space, funding, or equipment. So just deciding what's important to you right now. Yeah, you're welcome. Back here.
How long did it take you to figure out that fiber art was the medium for you? Like, did you experiment with other forms for a while, or did you like an immediate connection or what?
Good question. In high school, I started sewing on the sewing machine in a class, and I was like, oh, this is it for me. I am into this. And for some reason, my dad was very supportive. He gave me this magazine, Fiber Arts magazine, and it had people, like a student feature, and that's how I found the University of North Texas, and that I knew they had a fibers program. But I did think maybe fashion design, so I tried that. Didn't work out. I'm not a fashion design girly. And then in fibers, they ask you to try other things. I tried ceramics. I hated it. Too wet, too cold. I tried new media. I was like, this isn't gonna work out. Making videos and Photoshop collages and stuff. And then I found sculpture, and that's when I realized working in the round made so much more sense to me than weaving on the loom, which feels very two-dimensional. So I would encourage you to, if you are able, to just try different things to find what connects you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
How did you decide to move to Western North Carolina specifically?
Oh my God. Let's see. Well, but I'm in love with the Penland School of Crafts. It's crazy. But I think I'm in love with the school. I was able to find a lot of mentors taking classes there. You meet so many artists that you realize, like, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can be an artist and work as an artist. And then the landscape. So I moved officially to North Carolina in 2018 to work as a staff member at the school. I made all these connections with working artists that come in to teach because I was facilitating their workshops. And then once I left that job, I started to work on my professional work, but had all these great network of artists to connect with. And so that's what ended up making me stay in North Carolina, was that job, as well as the residency in 2024. But on a personal note, I have a partner. He loved Western North Carolina. He was like, I really want to stay here. So I had to listen to that as well. So it was not just a me choice. It was like in partnership. I hope I answered your question. Yes.
How did you go about applying the craft and meal guide or your basket?
Yes. So I like to skirt around dyeing the actual rattan. So what I do is I weave the reed while it's blonde, and then afterwards I'll put the mortar on top. I use spray paints on the surface, almost like in makeup, like it's almost like the foundation of color. And then the cochineal, I make an ink of it, so I boil it, I add alum to it to brighten the color, and then gum arabic powder to turn it into a watercolor, and then I paint it on top. And the richness of the ink makes everything come alive because it goes into the cracks of the mortar It looks almost like blush. Cochineal was often used in blush and lipsticks, even now. So I feel like the color just brings so much aliveness. Are you a natural dyer?
Yeah, we get into it sometimes. I wondered if you were, if it was completely covered in water, or if you treated it so long it would stick on.
No, I love to natural dye, but I've been more attracted to painting lately. Yeah. Any other questions? This one.
Do you dip those in mortar or you paint the mortar on? How do you apply
The
that?
mortar comes in a bucket, and then I put gloves on and I give it a rub down. It's like I'm giving them a massage. It's very physical. It's helpful to have an assistant that day. But what I like about the mortar is that it makes the work something that looks soft. It turns it hard. It adds this industrial quality that's not often thought about when referring to baskets. It relates to architecture. Sometimes it makes the work more fragile.
I would think it would crack if it's not sealed well.
Sometimes, but oftentimes the mortar has a lot of adhesives in it, and so I have not had a break, which has been great. Yeah. And then I saw your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did you manage to get the loops? How did you manage to get over the bar in this photo right here?
The bar is comprised of 3 parts, and in a mortise and tenon type of fit. So the top comes off, pop, and then I just slide it through, and then I have to have help to pop it back in.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought you found some magical way to wrap it around.
No.
the top.
And that's another important thing, is display is important. So we talked about how balancing is important to the work, and if you're able to work with somebody who is proficient in wood or in metal, so you don't have to do it yourself, you don't have to know everything. I got these built by a friend of mine, and so keeping that in mind.
You said you use cochineal needles, which are naturally quite red. What do you use for the blue? Or the blues, because it looks like a mix of both.
Yeah, so with the blue, the paint foundation is blue, and then that last layer is a ink wash of cochineal. So then it kind of creates a little bit of a violet tone when in person, and that's the layering that I'm doing over here.
For the natural inks, are you in a process to make them, or do you purchase them?
I make them. I'll buy the insect dry from a company called Maywa.com. They're a natural dye supplier out of Canada, and then I'll take those and I'll make my own inks at home in the studio. So maybe I can come back and I can share that with y'all at some point. That could be fun. Over here.
For the Mobius strip, how exactly did you go about doing that? Did you make one big loop and kind of each thing together, or?
For the Mobius strip, it was that piece. I will tell you, it was a 3-dimensional translation of a Mobius strip cut in thirds. And so, in a separate piece that I made, and I don't have a photograph of it, I used chain link fence, like chicken wire, and I took a strip of it, joined it into one big loop, and then I cut that and used that for an installation. And that was a more direct reference to the Mobius strip, because the Mobius strip is a planar form. Did that answer your question? Kind of. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Sounds like it's raining cats and dogs outside. Well, I'm very grateful for your time. It's time to shut it down. They're kicking us out. We're going to go back to basket weaving. Y'all are welcome to come and hang out with us. And thank you so much for joining me. Thank you.